Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1067, and we didn't talk over the lovely Ann-Katrine today. Hello, it's Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Today, we're somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont, the last place on earth. It's Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer, plus the return of the much-loved news segment called
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Do-You-Know-Dat? Where I talk about some things that are facts.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Well, last week it was all about the Catherine Timpf, that Fox News commentator that makes my heart skip. She's a little nymph. Now it's all about Emily Tish Sussman. She's that really young Democratic campaign spokesperson. How did this channel become such a hot, smart woman?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Eye candy zone. I want to be on that internet dating website, if there is one.
Mike's
Fox News
Daily
Women
Podcast.
That would be a great...
Yeah!
Of course, you know, our conversations would be heated, because I would disagree with them. Well, except for, not Emily Tish Sussman. We seem to be pretty much agreeing, but the other gal, Catherine Timpf, and I would be arguing, and then we'd have makeup. That was a lot of marriages have sort of, opposites attract type thing, right? That's what it's all about, life. There's two people that are going to show up here in just a little bit here at Cafe Anyway. Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. They disagree on who they want to vote for. Bernie Sanders and Hillary. It's hot, this relationship between the two of them, because of the disagreement. Bernie Sanders, however, there's a bit of a slip-up he had in that interview. He was kind of... have you heard it? I haven't either. But, Hillary's been using it. But it does bring to mind that it's not always easy when you're in the spotlight. But yet, at the same time, look at Perot's running mate. His vice presidential candidate pick. Back in, I forget what his name was, back in 7000 BC, whatever that was, a long time ago. Look who just walked in. Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. Hotels, Ross Perot. Yes, Ross Perot. Yeah, who is he? You know who he is. Okay, he's that guy that, Dana Carvey used to imitate. Yeah. He was known for saying the big sucking sound of American jobs that you would hear if NAFTA was passed. So. Mike Matthews, I'm like a millennial. You are? Yeah, I'm a millennial. And, I don't believe in Bernie. I don't believe in Hillary Clinton. I believe in Bernie Sanders is what I'm trying to say. Go on. And, Bernie Sanders is all about, change and stuff, and Hillary is just the status quo. Go on. And, her husband and everything, he was president when I was born. And, there's all there's ever been is wars. Oh, look who else just walked in. Oh, Mike, it's Floyd the Floorman! And this is John Deere, the engineer. Chely, it was George W. Bush that started all the wars, and then his father started the other war back in 1990. That's not true. Yes, it is. I was alive when that happened. You're lying. No, that's not a lie. Mike, what was that sound effect for? Lies! That was a lie detector. No, it's not a lie. You were alive too, Mike. I was alive back then, yes. No, it's true. We didn't really have... He bombed something. Clinton bombed, someplace in the Persian Gulf. And it ended up being a perfume factory or something like that. But you know what? It wasn't the massive wars of the Gulf Wars. There was Gulf War I with George H.W., and then there was Gulf War II with George W., and then the Dixie Chicks. The Dixie Chicks had their issues because they talked about George W. on foreign soil, and there's still old white guys that get mad about that. But not Bernie Sanders. He's an old white guy. But you want him to win, huh, Chely? That's right, Mike. That's right, Mike Matthews. I kind of sound like Floyd there for a second.
That's because I agree with you, Chely. We're of the same mind.
That's really great, Floyd. You're awesome.
You are too, Chely. Because I'm Floyd the Floorman.
The floors look great, by the way, Floyd.
Thank you.
Well, whatever. It's, I know growing up, when I was growing up and, the 80s were happening and people were wearing the fluorescent pink and the tie-dye, not the tie-dye, that was the 60s. Well, some tie-dyes were coming back then, but the acid wash jeans, yeah, all that fun stuff. There's fun times. But were they as fun as these times, is the question. These times are crazy. People are getting called out for their overseas investments or their way of hiding money that's totally illegal. Big name leaders and celebrities, which I will recite all their names now. No, I don't have the names now. You don't want to hear a list, do you? You want an entertaining podcast. I'm giving it to you right now. Do you feel it? You've got to look up Emily Tish Sussman. I don't know. I mean, I think she's a knockout. She's got a beautiful smile. She's smart. When she's on TV and she talks, I kind of just get lost in her mouth. Now, I don't know if that's right. That's probably not right, basically, is what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's not right. She's a smart campaign director person for the Democratic Party. Catherine Timpf, on the other hand, is a quote-unquote comedian and gets on Fox News and commentates a lot. There's also the Andrea Tantalizing Tantataros, and all the others. What I'm saying is that internet dating's a bunk. And I was talking to someone yesterday who's gotten into like a 4-month relationship with some guy who lives in North Dakota. She has these 4-hour conversations. Yeah, everything's in fours in this story. She's 4 years old. No, that's not true. She's a little bit older. Okay, she's approaching 60, and she's got this relationship going. Good for her. The thing is, though, I'm not into relationships that I get into with people over internet dating. I don't trust internet dating. I think it's a skewed, weird thing. It's some fancy, futuristic bunk to me. I like the word bunk today. And then the other thing is I think you need to meet the person in person. Which this person hasn't met that person yet. The word person and for. But both those things. I'm word drunk already, and I haven't even began the show. Okay, the last thing I wanted to bring up is the website, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Go there, you can help us out, and it's simple. You just click on the Amazon link, and it takes you to Amazon through MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. But what you're doing is you're buying things that you would usually buy on Amazon, and it helps us out. There's also the PayPal if you want to click on that and donate anything. All the special Cafe Anyway characters will send you a special greeting. It'll be wonderful. Check that all out at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. The other thing I wanted to mention really quick was I had never watched The Mummy before, and I watched it last night for the first time. Wow. Brendan Fraser. What an actor. Well, I mean, not that he's a great actor or anything, but he eats up this. He's got this face that's so animated and different. And I can see why he got so popular in that time period that The Mummy came out. And then I forget who his female lead is. But it's interesting that movie is so dated now. A, because of the computer graphics. Oh, it also featured a guy from 4 Weddings and a Funeral. He was the gay one whose gay partner died. And the word gay is being used a lot too. 4-person gay. I just created a sentence. And he plays in The Mummy the brother of the girl who I can't think of that actress's name. But it's interesting for a female lead. She's tough, but she's really feminine. Which I don't really know if today you'd have that in an action movie. The differences between The Mummy and an action movie today is A, no Brendan Fraser. B, better computer graphics. Although the computer graphics are pretty interesting for that time period. The guy whose face is falling off because he's the mummy, he's the dead guy coming back to life. And then this heroine, this actress her character is extremely feminine but tough. Nowadays, you seem to have a lot of tough, not so feminine characters. I don't know if that's true. Maybe I don't really go see movies anymore. Maybe there's... what are you saying, Mike? They should be like... They shouldn't be anything. I'm just saying it seems like a different thing than what the Mummy... You watch the Mummy, it feels dated, really dated, even though it came out within the past 20 years. So, that's my completely useless review.
Mike's absolutely useless review.
And now let's get to the news segment. We haven't done this in a while. It's called Do You Know Dat?
It's Bison Bentley's Do You Know Dat?
Hey, this is Bison Bentley, and Mike Matthews has a couple of stories that'll make you want to ask yourself, do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know that?
All right, this news story I pulled out of the wonderful Podcastro Valley Forum, and it brought up an interesting question. By the way, Podcastro Valley Forum getting quite religious these days because of, it said on the Easter edition, it said Christ is risen. So I don't know, that's kind of leaning religious. Or he is risen is what it said. I've never seen that before. It usually is kind of more, or less Watchtower, if you know what that publication is. If you've ever had someone knock on your door and wake you up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning and they're in suits and and they want to tell you the end of the world is coming tomorrow. So hurry up, give them all the money you have because the end of the world is nigh. But here is this story. This is from the Podcastro Valley Forum. About 87% of California drivers engaged in at least one risky behavior while behind the wheel within the past month, according to the latest research by AAA. These unsafe behaviors include driving while distracted, impaired, drowsy, speeding, running red lights, or not wearing a seatbelt. This is a culture of indifference for far too many drivers when it comes to road safety, said AAA Northern California spokesperson Cynthia Harris. The vast majority of motorists believe they are more careful than others on the road, though most of them are not making safe decisions while behind the wheel. All you have to do is take a drive if you're in Northern California, drive anywhere here in the East Bay. Oh my gosh, people run through red lights. People don't pay attention to when the light turns green and they just sit there. People stop constantly, not at the line of the intersection, but like 2 cars back because they want to trigger the signal trigger. People, and then now you've got pedestrians and bicyclists that don't obey the laws either. So they're just as guilty. Last Friday, almost hit somebody that was on their bike riding the wrong direction and not obeying the traffic signals. So the report finds that 1 in 3 drivers have had a friend or relative seriously injured or killed in a crash. And 1 in 5 have been involved in a crash that was serious enough for someone to go to the hospital. It shows the most common unsafe behaviors during the past 30 days include talking on a cell phone while driving. That's 70% did that. Reading a text message or email, 42%. And typing or sending a text or email, 32%. Over 80% of drivers view such distracted driving as bigger problem than 3 years ago. It's a bigger problem than it was then. Drivers who take their eyes off the road for more than 2 seconds can double their risk of being in a crash. Nearly half of all drivers report going 15 miles per hour over the speed limit on a freeway in the past month, while 15% admit doing so fairly often or regularly. About 45% report going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit on a residential street. Nearly 1 in 3 drivers say they have driven when they were so tired they couldn't hardly keep their eyes open. and more than 1 in 5 admitted doing this more than once during the past month. During the same period, more than a third of drivers said they had driven through a light that had just turned red when they could have stopped safely. 1 in 5 drivers drove without a seatbelt. Statistics show that nearly half of all vehicle occupants who died in a crash in 2013 were unrestrained at the time of the crash. And finally, about 13% report driving when their alcohol level might have been near or over the legal limit, and about 9% said they did this more than once over the past year. The survey sampled 2,442 licensed drivers ages 16 and older who reported driving in the past 30 days. You can find out more about that at that's just AAAfoundation.org is what that says. Okay, as we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley.
And here's today's podcast picture.
So, gay for person. That's what we've learned today. Those are the words we've gotten, and that we are driving through red lights way too much, and driving tired too much, and podcasting tired too much on this podcast. But not today, I'm wide awake. Got things to do. Okay, the podcast picture is of the wonderful place called Gulf Shores, Alabama. Gulf Shores, Alabama. Right there where Alabama meets the Gulf of Mexico. And, where the Atlantic filters to that, that. It's a look at a map. You'll see it. And it's a beautiful spot. Love the sand. That picture actually looks quite cold because it was cold. It was around December. It was a cold day. And that was when I lived in Alabama, I lived in the north part of Alabama, which was like a 6-hour drive from that spot that you see. Alabama's kind of a long state. Kind of like from Northern California to Southern California, you could fit Alabama in there. So I spent most of my times up in the North Alabama part. That's where I was living, with the trees, lots of beautiful trees, and rolling hills, and the Tennessee River, and a mountain man. We get together every time we can. The Gulf Shores, though, very nice, very like Florida. It, of course, borders Florida and Mississippi, so very nice area. I would have liked to have gone there more than once. I only went there once, the 2 years that I lived in Alabama, but whatever, we couldn't, for some reason we didn't go. Anyway, I sometimes think back to the wonderful trip that we made down there, and I decided to post a picture of it. There you can see it at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Mike Matthews, Bernie Sanders is going to win. All right, well, whatever. It was interesting what you had to say. Your revisionistic history views were interesting. Thank you, Mike Matthews, for that snide, satirical comment, facetious comment. Mike Matthews. You look like you're mad at me. I might be. Okay. Well, next show, we'll all be happier and make nice with each other.
Chely, let's go somewhere.
Okay.
Talk about...
Sorry, you go ahead.
And talk about Bernie Sanders.
All right, that sounds good. Let's go get a mocha.
All right.
Oh, I'm going to be getting a mocha later on today with the band The Go-Aheads. And maybe I'll get a free mocha because I'm probably going to mention the place that I'm at. I probably won't. Well, whatever. So next show, we will have the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!